As you were talking about the cosmic perspective, we do like to ask a couple questions on the show. Do you think we are alone in the cosmos?
Have you guys heard of the Transcension hypothesis? No? Okay.
Explain for us.
So it's a good theory to account for Fermi's paradox. Fermi's paradox is the one that says that given the size of the universe, of even the observable universe, and given the preconditions that potentially are there for life, how come we see no evidence of intelligent life, right? We found all these Earth-like planets, all these things in the habitable zone, and then you just infer the rest using some mathematical equations about scale, and you're like, wow, there should be plenty of advanced civilizations, and yet we see no evidence of it. That's Fermi's paradox, right? There should be, but there isn't. And so the Transcension hypothesis is an answer to that paradox. And basically it says the following. If you look at our own evolution and our technological advancement, it goes in two directions. It goes outward as we spread across the planet and make massive cities and make airplanes and then make rockets and go to the moon. Like there's this outward expansion of our technological scaffolding, right? Like a spider's web, like spreading out potentially into the universe. Yet simultaneously, there's this inward expansion as we make denser and denser computational substrates, right? The chips keep getting more powerful, the processing capacity gets more powerful and infinitely smaller until you eventually might get to what he calls femtoscale computing, which is computing that's like computational density that's on the size of like black hole-like dimensions of computational density, okay? And the idea being is, so we have this outward expansion, but then we have this much faster exponential inward expansion. And no doubt, eventually, maybe a couple hundred years, whatever, we're going to live in virtual realities, because that's just what's going to happen. Synthetic artificial intelligences that can think and essentially have personhood will live inside of these virtual realms, inside of femtoscale density computational substrates. So we're going to basically open up a virtual universe that's operating in dimensions that are smaller than and more dense than a black hole. So we will disappear out of space and time, out of the visible universe through these femtoscale dimensions. And so Transcension is basically that. We disappear into an outside of space and time, and that's when we find all the other advanced civilizations. So they went in instead of out. That's Transcension. That's a real thing coined by a guy called John Smart. You can Google it. I made a video about it. So I think that's probably the best plausible account for why we haven't found the aliens. I certainly don't believe any of the reports of flying saucers or anything like that. Those sound more like psychedelic delusions.
That's a really good one, though. Transcension hypothesis?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting one.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Okay, and then do you think we're already in a simulation?
I'm going to read a passage to answer that. Only because I don't have what I think is a good answer on the simulation hypothesis, like whether we're in a simulation right now. Like I think it can be argued either way. But one of the things that
you just argued for Transcension hypothesis.
Yeah,
so,
but listen to this. So Kevin Kelly talks about, he started Wired magazine, and he talks about a series of discontinuities that have changed how we see ourselves in the cosmos. The first one was when we thought we were the center of the universe, and then we realized we're just a little speck of dust in the sunbeam. and then another discontinuity has been the one that we think that we're like somehow special and the other animals are not, like we're gods and they're not. And then we realized evolution, no, we're the same, we're on a continuity. So the discontinuity was eliminated again. The third one that we're going through now is that we think ourselves as different from the man-made or the human-made. So there's the natural, the organic, and the human-made is somehow unnatural. But increasingly we realize that we're just smack in the middle between the born and the made, and that's another continuum. And the technium, which is the Kevin Kelly phrase for the organism that we call technology, he calls the seventh kingdom of life. So technology is, we realize, is just continuous with biological evolution. But then the last exceptionalism, and it goes into this idea of whether we're in a simulation or not. The fifth discontinuity is the special status that we give to the physical. We feel the universe to be a place full of physical material that pushes back and presses against us. Things have weight, size, and duration. That's what the universe is in everyday experience, the real stuff that can be measured, felt, and sensed. Our world of matter and energy follows a set of laws to such an exacting degree that we can manipulate it to make rockets and computers. That's pretty solid. Matter's consistent refusal to be bullied outside of its own laws adds to the sense of it being real, right? Real means physical, right? Information, on the other hand, lacks physicality. Unlike energy, which we can at least measure with physical instruments, a digital bit is disembodied. It weighs nothing. It takes up no space. We don't have good measures for information. We are not yet sure if the total amount of information in the universe is conserved, nor if it is finite. Yet we have come to see that life, even our own life, is a pattern of intangible information rather than material form. Evolution, that great engine of creation, is a pattern of information. And mind, especially the mind, is a type of information flow. So we know that the most powerful forces in the universe that we are aware of are constructed of the most intangible things we can detect, bits. There stands the discontinuity, atoms versus bits. But lately, physicists have begun to suspect that atoms themselves are composed of information in some way that we don't understand. As the legendary physicist John Wheeler puts it, its are bits. The deeper we inspect the interior of subatomic particles and their quirky behavior, the more they can be explained as information flows. Many physicists expect that when we get to the bottom of how matter works, we'll find primarily a structure of information and the absence of anything material. Atoms will be understood as elaborate, dynamic arrangements of intangible signals. Solid-state physicist David Merman writes, "Matter acts, but there are no actors behind the actions. The verbs are verbing all by themselves without a need to introduce nouns. Actions act upon other actions. There's no duality between the existence of a thing and its properties. Properties are all there is. Indeed, there are no things." As this discontinuity between the realm of the physical and the realm of the immaterial is erased, scientists have begun to re-envision the laws of physics as complex algorithms of code. Energy also is being restated in terms of information. The pulsating stars and iron planets will gradually be seen by science as wisps of intangible nothings. Organisms and technologies, including megastructures like skyscrapers and starships and floating cities, will be defined as structures of computation, equivalent to software. So if that's the case, then yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you read that. Jason, last question, and we'll open up for Q&A. Last question is, what do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
Whew. So I recently I underwent an experience of psycholytic therapy, which is with a nurse who has a degree in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy to take care of me, to address some related issues that I had with anxiety, as you know I deal with. And one of the things that came to mind during that time was that the most, not just when something is beautiful, but the sensation that it occasions, right? The feeling of beholding beauty, right, is the most exquisite and important thing in the world. And by the way, that's a big umbrella term. You can include love under beauty. You can include aesthetic experiences under beauty. But but I just think that, to me, the most beautiful thing in the world is the cognitive and aesthetic orgasm, which is the moment in which you commune with something magnificent beyond yourself. So it's a moment of revealed truth and ecstasy and merger and communion. And it's when you cry, not from sadness, but from ecstasy, right?
Yeah.
Why does beauty make us cry? Asked Alain de Botton. And he says it's because what it hints at is the exception. And so there's this cognitive dissonance between what you're seeing and what you know the average to be. And in order to correct that imbalance, you cry. It fixes the discontinuity there. And that's called catharsis. Yeah. I love catharsis.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you can have an experience like watching a film, and a film builds up slowly and magnificently, or a melody might do, and you know, it works to. Have you heard Jordan Peterson talk about music and how it speaks meaning to people? It's the one thing that cynical people can't be cynical about, and I feel the same way about good films. You know, they speak meaning, they broadcast meaning. You know, and you know, meaning is like oxygen for us, right? You guys know that line that says, you know, a human being can live for, you know, a week without food, or 3 or 4 days without water, but you can't live for a minute without hope, right? That's why people commit suicide, when they lose hope. Meaning is the antidote to hopelessness. Meaning and signification, you know, is everything. And so the capacity of music and cinema to the way it delivers meaning to us, the way it patterns it, you know, like melodically, and then like spoon feeds it to us, you know, is almost tantric in a cognitive way. You know, it's to me it's everything. And to regularly submit, you know, talk about surrender, the ecstatic surrender to a work of art, to a work of meaning, I think is the greatest possible indulgence that we can give ourselves amidst the cosmic tragedy of being finite beings who dream of immortality. So that's like the temporary fix until the singularity makes us all immortal and saves us. So, yeah.
What a wonderful conversation, Jason. Just super blessed to have had you in San Francisco. I've been here. We all greatly appreciate you and love your work so much. And we hope to see you again very soon.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
We'll take some questions.
Q&A now.